Alright, so it's been a while since I've actually done a action figure review video, and I saw this guy at Target today for a pretty reasonable price, and it's been a while since I've actually done a McFarlane toy review video, and as you guys know, I think most of you know, I really like McFarlane figures. I tend to think some of them have some great detail, and some of them have some pretty good articulation for the price, and when they go on sale, usually I'll get them, but this one was fairly cheap. It was around $22, I think. And it's a fairly new figure. I think it's one of the newest ones, and I really just liked it because the packaging was just so... It felt really great. I know that McFarlane's done animated figures in the past, especially for the Batman the Animated Series, and I think those got a little bit of hate just because the packaging wasn't that great and the figure's quality wasn't the greatest. It did have that weird cell shading that a lot of companies were doing with animated figures, as we saw with like Hasbro on the retro card back line of Spider-Man, and then we have McFarlane doing it with the Batman. But I really saw this figure and really just was surprised at the quality of it from what I was looking at. I mean, you can already see there's a lot of accessories, like almost import level, and obviously this is nowhere near an import figure, but it is a DC Direct figure, and which is very interesting because DC Direct is one of the more popular lines when it comes to DC figures just because of their comic accuracy and how many figures were made in that time during the early 2000s. And I just really was drawn towards this figure because it has great colors, and it looks like it has a lot of accessories, and just looks better quality compared to certain McFarlane figures I've seen in the past. And the packaging is really nice. It's very bright, very retro. And I figured I would just get it and review it and see if it's worth your money, worth the price. It's a lot cheaper than the other DC Direct figures. It's not one of those premium $30 figures. It's a little under the $30 mark with around $23 maybe with tax. But I think they definitely have reused the sculpt as it was a big controversy back when McFarlane first got the DC license. He made a couple animated figures. I think it was Flash, Superman, and Batman. And the Batman had the Batman New Adventures sculpt. It was not the normal Batman sculpt. It was a very boxy, more overly cartoony, Mr. Incredible type build for him. And I don't think people really like that. But he definitely got better doing the animated figures later on. I've definitely liked a lot of the animated figures, but I think there's only two in this line that I saw. I saw a Mr. Freeze, which looked really nice, and this Batman. And this Batman has this metallic plastic here. So I'm going to open this up. We're going to see the quality of the accessories, articulation, and from what I'm looking at, those look like very old ball hips. So they could be reusing DC Direct sculpts. That's probably what they're doing here, especially since this is a revamp of the DC Direct line. So let's just get this thing open and see exactly what the quality is and see what exactly you're getting with the $20 you're spending on the figure. So I don't think McFarlane gets a little bit of a bad rap just for the amount of accessories he charges for and the quality of the figures, but something I definitely like a lot with these McFarlane figures is the quality of the boxes and packaging, because Hasbro does those like janky little windowless boxes and then those card backs, which is cool. It's very retro, but again, it feels very cheap. And this box is a very nice, sturdy box, and it feels very, very well made. Looks like we have some kind of picture here, and I like this little picture. It's on like a big sturdy piece of cardboard. I'm not sure what this is, so I'm going to carefully open it up here. Carefully, says he rips it. It's an animation cell reproduction from episode Cold Comfort, season 1, episode 3. So this is very interesting. I think this is a little harkening back to the original DC Direct line, because I think in the original one they had an entire line of animated series figures, including Batman the New Adventures, and they would include little pictures like this, which is very, very cool to me. I don't know if this comes out. It looks like it's not going to. I don't want to break it or anything, but that looks really cool, and that would look really nice on display. So this figure I already have high hopes for it in terms of the quality, because just looking at it, it looks like a sturdier figure. The cape is this very soft plastic. It is not like that harder plastic we've seen with other McFarlane figures. I do have a McFarlane figure. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I first did a review on this figure a while back, around one of the first videos on my channel. And as I said, I really like the figure. It scales nicely with other figures. Its articulation is better than most McFarlane figures. One thing I didn't like was the quality of the blue plastic, but They had this very soft cape. It wasn't super soft, but it was less hard than some of the previous capes McFarlane has done, which I really liked because it really helped with posing options. But it is still very pre-posed, very well sculpted, but still very like sculpted in this specific way. This one just hangs down, and it is very soft. It's almost like leather, like. That's very interesting, and I've never really seen McFarlane do that before. He either does fairly soft plastic capes, cloth capes, or he'll just downright do a hardened sculpt cape, like we saw with the Hourman figure that came out. But already, I'm liking the quality of it. Everything seems really nice, really nicely packed in. No accessories falling out. I think that was a problem I had with this guy, is his hands were falling out in the box, which was not a good sign. Everything looks just really high quality, like. I really like the packaging too. It's very classic, and I did kind of grow up with this more modern era of the Batman animated series. I definitely went back and watched some of the older ones as a kid, but I was more used to the episodes where Robin and Batgirl and Nightwing were all in those same episodes, and I used to watch that show. I rewatch reruns of it, but we do have this stand. This is different from the normal McFarlane stands, because if you don't know, McFarlane usually does these little pieces of plastic. I have one on my King Spawn here, so I've done a little customizing myself. As you can see, I put some real chains on him, but as you can see here, McFarlane will usually do these little black plastic stands with pegs, which is really nice. I really wish more companies would do that. I think NECA's gotten better at doing that because they include more stands with their figures. But this is a very different stand because it has this little stick and it's got this little thing. So I'm guessing we're going to be able to pose Batman using that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting him out, and we're going to finish actually reviewing the figure. Okay, so getting the figure out of the packaging, I'm already pretty impressed by it because he feels very sturdy. He feels very heavy. And that's very interesting because he's a very oddly proportioned figure, with having his shoulders be a lot bigger than his legs here and his lower body. So I'm not sure how well he's going to stand. I'm sure he'll stand fairly well. With the stand here, he seems to be standing pretty nice. I don't really see any problems with the paint. I think that's usually another problem, is when McFarlane does some paint apps, usually certain things get either a little splotchy, or especially if it's like a character with a lot of washes on it, it gets a little splotchy. But I don't see anything wrong here, and as you can see, they've clearly done away with the cell shading that was on the previous figures. The only problem I'm really seeing, just glancing at it, is this little knee joint here seems to be a little bit farther down than this one. I don't know if you can tell. That might just be the way his leg is oriented, I'm not sure, but it feels like that is a little odd. And his leg can also bend in this very strange way like that. I don't know why that is. A little bit of a horse-legged Batman. I can also see that this figure is pinless, which is very interesting because this is, I think, one of the first pinless McFarlane figures. And McFarlane has always been a little bit criticized for not having pinless figures when literally every other figure brand out there has been doing it. I don't think he has double-jointed legs, which is obviously a staple of McFarlane toys. He loves to do double-jointed everything. But I definitely think this is a reuse of a sculpt from a DC Direct figure. I will try to put pictures up for you and some notes to show you that I think it is, but I think it definitely is a reuse of the sculpts. I don't know about this blue cape. I don't think it's in the original show, but it definitely looks very, very accurate to the show, including with that head sculpt and this bat symbol. So for McFarlane already, this is very interesting. Oh, hold on. I just realized. So there's this different kind of stand. I just saw this stand. I didn't know how it worked. It's a very similar to the Revoltex stands. If you don't know, it's like a clip. That's very cool. That's a very high quality stand, especially, like, I'm not trying to harp on McFarlane, but when it comes to the quality of figures, he's usually going for sculpt over articulation. But with the amount of things you get, that's a pretty decent stand. I don't know why it's doing this. Maybe that's so you can lower and heighten it. I don't know. It's probably so you can lower it down and then put it around his waist, which isn't really going to work because he's got the cape in the way. But that's a very interesting stand design from McFarlane, when he usually has always done those more NECA-type circle stands. So that's very cool. I really like that. I just now noticed it looking at the box. But before we get into accessories, let's just check out all the articulation on this guy. So his head is very limited. It can only swivel in this one direction, and it gets a little weird right there. Like, it gets a little off. It can't really look up. It can a little bit. I think that's just funny, though, because I don't think Batman looked up that much in the animated series, and as you know, early Batman could never really look up. He can look down pretty well, he can look straight forward, so there's no really problems with the head. I don't really expect much with head articulation with figures these days. He does have ball shoulders, but no butterfly joints, which I really wasn't expecting them to have any. The softness of the cape really helps get that articulation to work, because I was really afraid with this figure that the cape was going to be too hard to get the articulation to work, which it doesn't. It actually works really well with his arm joints, which is very great. I love that. He's got some very stylized gauntlets here. The hands look really well sculpted. They look very angular and cartoonish. Obviously, no double joints at the elbows. These just go in this one direction, but I don't think you're getting that many poses out with this guy. He definitely looks better on display, probably with him just being in a static pose. He doesn't have any ab crunch. He does have a swivel, which is very nice. That can help out with certain posing options, but there is no swivel. And these very old school ball joints, they are very odd. They're very loose compared to what I've seen with McFarlane. He usually does a lot stiffer. He does have a little bit of a lower leg swivel, and he does have a ankle swivel, so this does help out a lot with the articulation here. But getting his leg to bend is going to be very hard. I'm being very careful because I have broken figures before trying to bend them too hard. I actually did that more recently with a figure I got at a Ross. It was a Mego Penguin that was on sale, so I got that, and I'll show that in a little bit. But overall, the sculpt is really nice. The quality of the plastic I don't really think is terrible. It feels a little bit sturdier, feels a little bit nicer, especially this quality of it on the cape here. I think the metallic bit of plastic is just a little bit of a gimmick. The only spotty paint I'm seeing is just a little bit on the underpants, but obviously I don't think that this paint was going to stick well in this plastic anyway, so that's really not McFarlane's fault. Well, I guess it is because he picked the plastic color. It's very loose in certain areas. That's a little concerning, but not really. It's very stylized. Like, he's very pointy in certain areas, like the tips of his boots here, and then he's got some more angular and then rounder parts. It looks really faithful to the TV show, and it definitely feels like a toy I would have played with as a kid, which is one thing I really like about this figure is it's got enough articulation to where a child can have fun playing with this, and I really hope that's sort of the direction Todd goes down with his figures, is making them more like toys for kids, like how Todd's toys started off with the Spawn line. I actually own Overkill from that original line. But playing with that Overkill toy the other day, like, it had a fun play feature, and this just feels like a great, like, it's got bright colors, it's got a fun little metallic part that would be cool to kids, it's got a very cartoony, child-friendly look, and I think that sort of gets lost in translation with kids' superhero toys today, especially the new Superman line of toys that I've been seeing for the new James Gunn Superman movie, which let me know down in the comments if you're excited for that. It just didn't feel like that much of a kid's toy. Like, they looked very limited in articulation, but this has a decent amount. You can get a lot of poses, and it's great for grown-ups who have memories of watching the show as kids and really love the comic accurateness of that. Plus, it's great for collectors who really remember the DC Direct brand, and I think it's a great change of pace for McFarlane. You know, making brighter figures that are more centered towards maybe being more like toys while still having that collectible feel, which I really like. And I do hope McFarlane does more like this. I haven't gotten any of the other animated figures, but it kind of makes me want to now because of how fairly priced they were, I think, for only $23 for a figure that's a little bit smaller than 5 inches maybe. It's definitely smaller than this Batman here, but you get a lot with it, and you get a ton of little things. So the stand is really nice, the figure is really nice. Let's get on to his accessories and figure out because just the figure, the card, and the stand I don't think are enough to determine the value of this yet. So let's look at all the hands he has, because he has quite a bit. Okay, so starting out, he gets 2 grabbing hands, which are obviously required because he does have some weapon accessories in this. But you get 2 grabbing hands, obviously 2 fisted hands that he has on his character already. And these grabbing hands are very interesting. They feel a little bit bigger than the fisted. Obviously, there's not much to say about them. They're just for holding accessories, so there's not much to say there about those. He gets another set of hands that look like grabbing hands here. Let me get them out. He gets another set of what looks to be grabbing hands. I'm thinking that these, NECA did this too with the big monster movie pack, is that they had hands for the turtles. If you haven't seen those videos, then please go watch them. They are in my Spooktober playlist. But certain accessories that the NECA figures had required a shorter grip, so this looks like a much tighter grip, probably for the thin battering accessory I'm looking at currently, and these are probably for something bigger. I'm not really sure, but there are two types of grabbing hands, some small and some big, which is also a great step forward for McFarlane because he also gets harped on for having a very limited amount of accessories when it comes to the accessories included with his figures, except like this King Spawn where it came with a ton of guns. But in terms of like extra hands and stuff, like the whole controversy with the Batman figure that he released where you had to buy the entire Batsickle just to get an extra grabbing hand or just to get a normal hand, it was very not good. I don't know how else to put that. It just wasn't great, but the amount of accessories you get with this are really nice. And these hands so far are that's pretty high quality for McFarlane, especially when a company like NECA, who makes extremely high quality figures with tons of accessories, he's doing something very similar with having hands that have a smaller grip. Even if they are reused sculpted parts from DC Direct figures, that is still a lot of quality to be seen there from a company like McFarlane Toys that doesn't really do that often. And we have another set of grabbing hands, which these look like a gun type. He does have a grappling hook, so that probably works for his little grappling hook hand. There is a separate grappling hook piece. And then we do get one extra hand. And I like this hand a lot. It is the grapple hook holding hand. So it's a separate holding hand for the grappling hook. And this definitely reminds me of the Mafex Jim Lee Batman that was released, the Hush Batman that had the hand that already had the grappling hook in it. I think that's fine. But the amount of grabbing hands you get with this is a bit concerning. There's no open hands, there's no, like the Spider-Man hands that are like that, so he can put his hand on the ground. Again, you're probably not going to be able to do that with this guy because his articulation is very limited, but I think they probably could have done without having all of those grabbing hands. But it is nice to have extra hands that have different poses, which is very cool. And then we have two little weapon accessories here that, are very interesting too. Let me get them out. So we do have this tiny batarang, and it's very small. It is very thin. It just fits on the inside of my pinky finger, on the tip of my pinky finger here, which is just how small that is. It's very small, very thin, and I'm guessing it will fit in one of these hands probably. Yeah, so like these little grabbing hands here that are very thin probably hold these batarangs, and that's great for posing too. That will look really great on a shelf, but it's a very thin batarang, a very fun design for it. I don't remember what the batarangs looked like in the Batman New Adventures, but that's cool that we got a little batarang included. McFarlane usually includes batarangs like he did with this figure. He didn't do it with the first appearance figure, which I reviewed a while back, but that was such an old video. And then we have just a grappling hook by itself. Oh, and it comes out, I think. Okay, I'm not sure. I don't want to break that. We do have this grappling hook here, and it has this little, it looks like it comes out. Oh, so it does, I broke it. Okay. I just twisted that and broke that. Okay. I don't know why that is separated like that. I guess it looks like that for detailing, but you do get an extra grappling hook, I guess, if you want to have it in both of his hands, because he only has one just fused with it. I just broke that. I do have super glue, so I can probably reglue that, but okay. So with the amount of accessories you get, let's see here. If I can get everything together. You get 4 different sets of hands plus an extra hand. You get a very interesting stand that actually looks like it'll hold figures pretty well. You get this very cool card with all this little information, probably replacing the trading cards he usually places in his figures. And then you get a figure that has decent articulation. Now for $23, I think it's mostly worth it just because it's less expensive than McFarlane figures usually are. I definitely think it probably should be priced a little lower just because it's more of a toy than it is a collectible figurine. It definitely looks nice. The paint app is really great. This blue cape is very vibrant. There's no like super splotchy areas apart from where they brushed on this, but even that looks fine. Like you're not going to notice that up close or far away. I think it's a really great figure, and I like the effort put into it, even if it is just a reused sculpt, which I'm guessing it is. It definitely looks very similar. You do get a lot of hands. I definitely wish there were less grabbing hands, but I guess that makes sense to have those for things like the Batarang, which makes sense to have because he's going to be able to hold that. I'm going to try and put it in this thinner one, so like that. So I think that's great, and I'm going to do a couple poses for you for the outro, but it's very hard to determine the value of these figures and whether or not they're worth it, because McFarlane figures either go from really great to really bad sometimes, and I'm not trying to be rude to McFarlane by saying that, but that's just how it is that a lot of these figures end up just missing the mark sometimes when in terms of quality, and sometimes even quality control and stuff like that. And for this figure, with the amount of articulation and accessories you get, I think it's great, especially if it's like just a toy for kids. But the pricing, I think, is still, I think it's always too high. $20 for something like this that's clearly not really super insane in quality, like not something that you'd pay a ton of money for. I think it's better. It's definitely better than the Maximum Series Hasbro figures, because they're charging import prices for just a couple extra hands and accessories, while this figure has a lot of extra hands and accessories and a nice stand, but they're not charging like $50 to $60 for it just because it's got more stuff than that it really should have included to begin with. But I really like the figure. I like the look of it. It is very faithful to the comics. I love Bruce Timm's artwork already, so this is just a great addition to my collection of Batman and other figurines, and I really like the look of it. So do I recommend this figure? I definitely do, because it's great for the price point, and I will try to get the Mr. Freeze and review it if that's what you guys want to see. Let me know down in the comments, and I will try to do more DC related action figure stuff, because there's a lot of great DC figures out there, and you know, there's a lot of cool stuff to review and a lot of cool stuff to see. So thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more action figure stuff, please subscribe to my channel. I have a lot of action figure stuff. I go to toy fairs, I go to review figures, and if you want to see some toy hunt stuff, please do let me know. I would be happy to go to stores and record my journey looking for some cool action figures and some really cool stuff to review in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. I'm very close to 100 subscribers. I'm currently at 89, I think, currently. So if we can get 11 more subscribers, then I will be at 100. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video. I know I've said that like 3 times now, but I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.